Hello and welcome back for the last set of the day here for the Smite Console League. And we just got to see the two #1 seeds. They were tied going into it, and they're tied coming out of it. They're still going to be sitting up at the top.
No real surprise. I mean, those are two really good teams right now. Caden with a return to form to where he looked like one of the best junglers on console. He fell off for a little bit, but him returning to form, looking like a really great player again. Strictly Business is an insane roster. And so is Actual Authority. I mean, Wolves was playing a bear, and he was killing it.
It's just kind of similar to what we saw out of him last week, just always going into the front line, always leading his team into what should be danger and is never usually danger somehow. But we're going to be going into this one. It's going to be SoaR and Obey, which this one's going to be interesting because Obey's kind of been on the back leg from where we think they should be.
They've been faltering, for sure. This is a very important set for Obey to kind of set the tone going into the last week of the SCL to try and get some momentum going coming into LAN. This is important for them because, as you mentioned, they haven't looked as good as you expect the defending world champions to look. They made a change at ADC, picking up Zachsy instead of Mancer, and that's an upgrade there. So you would expect them to look better than they did during the summer, but that hasn't really been the case.
And SoaR is kind of in a similar space where they were usually doing well, but they just haven't really been able to find their position in the world yet. They haven't really found out how they want to work together as a team. But we do have picks and bans ready, so we will get to see who is going to kind of pull themselves out on top, who might be able to make a difference here. You were kind of saying earlier when we were looking at it that there's pretty much a group of two, group of two, and a group of two, and we just saw one group of two go up against each other, and now we get to see another one, potentially, depending on how SoaR plays up here.
I expect, for me, SoaR's in the group a little bit below Obey. They're there with Elevate right now, but they aren't bad by any stretch. Just because they, in my mind, are in the bottom two, don't mean that they don't have it doesn't mean they don't have the potential to go up and take a game off of a team like Obey Alliance, who, again, has not looked as good as you would expect.
And with how it is, it could honestly end up being like a group of two, a group of three, and then Elevate, unfortunately, still sitting at the bottom with a little bit more to learn. But as we can see, there's the Odin ban that I've been missing all day, the one that I think I've mentioned now 3 times. It was just one of the big ones. He's really strong in solo lane on console specifically. That's why we don't normally see him in the Pro League or in any of the other Smite games you might see, just because he can show a lot of prowess here, but not this game.
But it's going to be Chulainn and Ganesha, the 2 early picks for Obey. Chronos as well, giving likely that to Zachsy in the duo lane. One of his most comfortable characters, if not his most comfortable character, and just has that late game potential. So if Obey, it doesn't have the best early stages, they can say, well, at least we've got Chronos to come through in the late and try and carry it for us.
We didn't get to see a lot of Thoth earlier. I think we got to see a lot of players who wanted to play Thoth, but we finally get him to go through. And Geb and Osiris making a return for the day, and Xingqian getting banned out. We saw him play relatively well earlier.
Yeah.
So that one's not too surprising, and the Chiron was pretty much coupled with him.
Plus, Dwurst is on Obey. He loves his Guardians in the solo lane. He's been playing Xingqian forever. It's a comfort pick for him. Smart ban by SoaR.
Going into it, Muzen coming out one more time. People starting to realize that the B does have a nice stinger on him, so he's able to hurt a lot. And as he goes forward into the game, he can hit you very hard and do a lot on his own if he continues to farm the way we've seen him so far.
Without a doubt. I mean, he brings so much damage. He has a lot of control as well, as long as he can be aggressive. The slow, the stinger for the cripple. But when he's on the run, it can be pretty scary. And he's probably going to be on the run against this lineup for Obey. Chulainn jungle, Sun Wukong solo most likely, and then Habwa on the mid lane. I mean, that is a lot of damage coming out of there.
That one makes me happy. For anyone who's followed me or at any point in time, Habwa was actually the god that got me into the game. Habwa is the one that got me loving Smite in the first place, so it's always nice seeing him able to kind of come in and be strong and have a good performance. And if there's anyone who likes to run him, it usually is Obey Alliance.
Delta Marine has always loved his Habwa. On the other side, Chalibur really has as well, but it's going to be the Thoth for him. This has been a god that he's really kind of matured with very quickly in the mid lane for SoaR. And a couple changes for SoaR. Relating still there in the jungle, but Keji, the new hunter, with Keegs going to a memory of Michael, and with Stormy Rays leaving the squad, and they need a new solo laner. JacobTask is the pick for SoaR.
With the way things are going for Obey, already starting out aggressive for the duo lane, which is pretty good when you have a Chronos on there, because much like what we got to see earlier with the Freya, that's going to be where his weakest point is this beginning of the match.
But when you're leaving your support alone in that duo lane, you don't have to worry about having a lack of clear. There's not a lot of pressure there at all. So good decision by Obey to take both buffs on that left-hand side, get that successful invade going for Obey Alliance. And while Dwurst is going to be behind on this right-hand side because Myflin didn't come over until after the speed was secured, that Hand of the Gods that Dwurst has purchased was enough of a threat to get JacobTask and Relating off of his own blue. So the Soul Laner is going to be happy. As long as they get their blue, they're usually okay.
What I'm really excited for this entire match is essentially when it comes down to it, no matter what, there's a lot of potential on both sides. Obey, coming out of this, they have been world champions before. They have shown bright throughout the league. And even though the fall split's not exactly starting the way they would want, they're still kind of sitting up there in a relatively solid third place spot. And on the other side, SoaR has been coming together. It's really nice and refreshing to kind of see them go from what seems kind of like a band of misfits into a team that is working on its own rights. And
they still have a couple different pieces to kind of work out now that Keji and JacobTask are on the roster, losing two of their more veteran players in hi-rez and Keegsmate. So SoaR is going to have a longer adjustment period now than they possibly did before, but led by SoaR and TheMedievalDoc, two guys who have been around the scene for a long time, who have a lot of potential to be on a top team. I think that they have the capability to do it. It just might not be right now for them.
The big thing that I think is going to come out for them is whether or not they are able to take advantage of the mistakes that Obey tends to make. Sometimes they get a little over-aggressive. Sometimes they read the map a little bit wrong. They go for something that they probably shouldn't be going for. But right now, they all five have a buff on their belt, and they all five are looking very happy with the position coming into this with, again, a small lead, but any lead can become big if cultivated right.
Especially with this sort of draft that Obey has gone for. A lot of late game here between the Habwa and the Chronos. So if they can get a lead, as they have, not a big one, but before the first buff respawn, this is pretty good. About as good as you can get without any kills at this stage. Look for Obey to continue to try and play aggressive around buff, specifically on this left-hand side where Jelly is very far ahead of MedievalDoc. This is where if I'm on Obey, I'm looking at the left-hand side. Let's invade that red. Let's invade that purple once again.
And with the way things are going there, they also have a small advantage going into the mid lane. With Chulainn being really good at snipes, as long as they can maybe bait that out, or if you're just Habwa and you can go through and deal the damage that you need to deal, you can get rid of them really fast.
Also have to give a shout out to Chulainn. Today's actually his birthday.
Oh.
So happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to Chulainn. Hopefully you can get a victory.
Your
for
team
himself.
hoping to give you a present.
Exactly.
Obey, hoping that's not the case, but they might be a little generous.
A bunch of angry old men on Obey Alliance. They don't want him to celebrate.
But with the way things are going, there's exactly the red buff invade you wanted to see, and Keji kind of stuck sitting back and watching as it happens. This is kind of the problem when you are an early game, or you're a late game ADC in the early game. You have to sit there and watch as everything you love gets taken away from you.
Smart by Obey, because Medieval's still not level 5 yet. He doesn't have his ultimate. Jelly's level 6. He's more than willing to fight on that left-hand side. And will they give up anything on the right-hand side? Most likely not, because Relating came over to try and defend. JacobTask is even with Dwurst, so he's not going to let Jacob into the jungle to try and invade. Dwurst secures his own blue, so at the very worst, Obey loses one buff to take two away on the left, but with Myflin and Delta Marine heading over to that speed, they're just up 2 buffs on this rotation.
And that's going to be good for them going into the future, because with the timers that we can see at least, and ideally Obey is going to be paying attention to their map, they'll see the speed buff coming up there that they might potentially want to go for another invade on, because they have that advantage in mid, because they have the advantage that they have across the map. And it really kind of, I think, goes for however Dwurst goes through. Is Fear No Evil going to come down to just kind of zone him out and let Relating get the farm he needs? But that's going to be a huge ult off the board for SoaR.
It is, and it looks a little silly, but honestly, I don't mind that from Relating. Those fire elementals are very important, and SoaR need to get a lead somewhere, and it's clearly not been on the left thus far. So if he can get a little bit ahead of Myflin off some neutral camps, does he get a kill with Fear No Evil? No, but the next opportunity to get a kill with Fear No Evil is probably about a minute away anyways. So you can hold on to it. Now, Myflin does need to be careful of that Fear No Evil because he went for Shell instead of Purification Beads in the jungle. So that's where, if I'm Relating, I'm looking to drop that Fear No Evil ultimate. But can I wait 60 seconds to do that because I got a little bit of extra farm? Sure, that's not a problem.
And I see that Shell, and really it screams out to me that it's not necessarily him being selfless as much as it is Delta Marine becomes kind of a liability going into this game. Yes, you're Habwa. Yes, you have beads, so your options are maybe try to run away or turn around and kill him. but that shell gives him just a little bit more option that he could get out of some bad scenarios.
Also, Myflin's a very confident player. He's going to say that, oh, I'm just not going to put myself in a position to need purification beads. At least that's what I imagine he would be saying.
And Myflin, being as confident as he could be, leading the way, left kind of in a 1v3, but not necessarily fighting just yet, and now relating, potentially going to get poked at, fought down. I like the disengage, I guess, coming down from it, recognizing that poking Myflin doesn't necessarily do a lot for you. You just need to get out of there.
You're not going to want to trade with a warrior at this stage of the game. There's a Blink Cataclysm on a 3 in the mid lane. Myflin going to eat that Fear No Evil, and MedievalDoc's going to get first blood. Nice final judgment from Chalibur, who then goes in, but a perfect knock-up from Jelly saves the life of his mid laner.
The stun's going to be great, but not enough follow-up, like you said. pbnjellly being the savior, the saving grace. That snipe. Almost enough damage, just barely not enough. And Myflin paying for the fact that he has shell instead of beads because he gets CC'd to death, not able to handle the Cataclysm Fear No Evil.
It's very tempting to not go beads because you're going a little bit tankier. There's probably going to be a Gladiator shield in that second item slot. You don't have to worry about taking as much damage from poke, and yeah, maybe you can live through Fear No Evil if it's just relating around, or even if it's just relating in Chalibur. But with 3 members there, Cataclysm into the Fear No Evil, that's such a long time to be CC'd, and without any sort of defense quite yet, just relying on those base protections, just not enough for the Chulainn.
And the glory for SoaR, I think, comes down to where that first blade ended up going, or first blood ended up going, which is on the TheMedievalDoc. That level difference that was such a huge impact earlier on is now completely in favor of TheMedievalDoc.
That's true. Jelly falling a little bit behind now as Myflin gets ganked a little bit on this right-hand side, takes a big chunk of damage, and there's the ultimate from JacobTask, but a perfect bait from Myf with the shell and the knock-up. There's not enough damage from Dwurst or the tower to finish off that kill. Ultimate for ultimate, shell for ultimate as well. Sprint was used by JacobTask. It's completely even on the right side of the map there between the 2 ultimates.
You keep waiting to see Obey turn around and try to fight where maybe they shouldn't, and I think they kind of recognize that they shouldn't, but it's just one of those, it's kind of rare to see these teams have as much discipline as they have going into this week. Last week, there was a lot of instances where it was kind of a, I probably shouldn't go in here, but I'm going to continue fighting anyway, just because if I get ahead, if it does go my way, the reward is going to be worth a lot, but the risk is very heavy. It looks like Wukong going to come through, try to steal that away, Dwurst, but not able to get it. Now going to get slowed down and chased down, relating. Not enough kill potential to really come through, but Fear No Evil is up, so he does have the ability to get a lot of aggression down onto the solo laner, but Myflin going to be going in just to get some poke.
Actually gave out more poke to Chalibur and Medieval than he received from the 2 tower shots, so ends up being worth it there. Just trying to get value out of that ultimate. Doesn't put your human form ultimate on cooldown, so you get that opportunity to get 2 ults on the D-transformation. Nice use of that kit.
TheMedievalDoc forced to shield himself just to stay alive, although the shield disappeared relatively quickly, and we've been kind of seeing him float around in the mid lane. The big one that's been going back and forth and hasn't had a lot of names coming down has been over here in the dual lane. Not a lot happening, and I think that's just going to be the case that Zachsy, I mean, even with a 2-level lead, he's still a Chronos.
That's true, and he's got that Warlock Sash almost, it's already done. It's already working on those stacks. Look at the XP per minute chart on the left-hand side of your screen. Zachsy all the way up top. Keji all the way at the bottom, just above Jelly for Obey. That's a big win for Obey because Zachsy is that late game hyper carry. He's getting closer faster than anybody else to that late game stage. Plus, he's already working on that Warlock Sash. It's nearly halfway done. So despite the lack of mobility, not going for boots, he hasn't been punished for it yet. He's been able to farm consistently. He's been able to stay safe in that lane. And now that he has his boots, this is a big power spike. Now he's tanky. He does damage and he's mobile all at the same time.
JacobTask finding some worth here as the new solo laner coming in for SoaR. He's the first one to get a tower overall, and overall he's getting the best of the lane against Dwurst, which is, I think, the big thing for him coming into this. A lot to prove when you're one of the new kids on the block, and when it comes into it, you're up against a world champion, so you have to come into this a little nervous and kind of shaking in your boots.
For me, it's the build that JacobTask has gone for that's allowed him to play this way. The boots into the Gladiator shield, there's nothing special. This is the build that solo laner Osiris is go for these days as he's met by Myflin and pushed back with that tether stun, keeps him safe for the moment. Whereas Dwurst has gone for a much different sort of new age build with a swift wing to get back to lane, give him some extra health and movement speed. than Breastplate 2 because it's incredibly gold efficient, and it is. It gives you a lot of physical protection, mana, MP5 for not a lot of gold, but he's still not done with his boots yet, and JacobTask has got boots and the Gladiator shield, and Dwurst is just never going to be able to trade with Jacob with this build, and Osiris has recognized that and played the lane very well in response.
It's one of those, it's a unique build that you don't normally get to see kind of coming out in Smite from Dwurst, because a lot of the reason you see people finishing these items so fast is because, unlike other MOBAs, they give better perks when you get up there. Instead of the first tier 1 items, you get a lot better stats if you invest that gold earlier on. So kind of risking that on the side of Dwurst going into it, getting punished for it too.
And on paper, this build makes a ton of sense. You've got extra move. You know, you're not missing the movement speed from the boots because you went Swift Wing. You've got a lot of protections and mana from Breastplate 2 without investing a ton of gold into it. Problem is, in reality, you're up against an Osiris with boots and Glad Shield who can poke you out and heal himself up at the same time. He's got cooldown reduction, physical protection. He's got everything he needs at this stage in the game, and is doing it for just about the same amount of gold, but more effectiveness overall.
See Keji, TheMedievalDoc rotating around. Keji's doing his best to keep up with Zachsy, and so far he's been relatively successful doing so. He's still only 1 level behind, which is more than likely going to start spanning a gap as the game goes on, just because Zachsy, I mean, he's the god of time. As time goes on, he gets stronger too with his new passive coming into it, and he hits hard. He just hits really hard.
This is a really good time to pull this Portal Demon by SoaR. No one from Obey is on the right side of the map. This is going to go down without any sort of contest. And on the left-hand side, they've got the Gold Fury completely warded up. So Obey never had a chance to go and do that objective in response. The rest of Obey is on back camps doing those while SoaR's doing an objective. Heads up play, they catch Obey sleeping.
And that's a big one just to pull yourself ahead at this point. The game's been even. It's been going back and forth. There's only been 1 kill in the 12 minutes we've been going, although they've been keeping us entertained the entire time by doing things like that. Although we do see Obey looking to group up, potentially go for another red buff steal, try to keep some control over the left-hand side jungle. There's going to be the Cataclysm in the mid. pbnjellly going to be fought out and taken down to about half health, forcing out the sprint just to get him alive. Delta Marine's going to be safe, even though he's Hopwa. And we're not going to see a kill come out from SoaR.
No relic usage there by Delta Marine either, so he escapes without having to burn a relic. Both used by Myflin and Jelly, but that's 2 big ultimates, Fear No Evil and the Cataclysm down for SoaR. That's why you see Obey playing aggressive here. They want to take this fight. They've got 5 compared to SoaR's 3 ults.
Now they're going to be able to turn some damage onto JacobTask. An ult being dropped into him as well, but he's going to be able to jump over Obey and run into the backline safe from their damage. They're trying to find Chulainn, they're trying to find Jacob, and they will at least get 1 mid lane, finds 1 mid lane. And Delta Marine's going to be on the board with a kill for himself, but he's getting low, he's getting knocked up, he's getting taken down slowly, but the CC chain coming out from Obey keeps him alive, just trying to juke, doing his best to stay alive around Relating, who's unable to get that overhand smash, and we see Delta Marine still alive, low mana, the Relating's coming around the back line, he's still looking for the blood, he still wants the kill. The rest of Obey is going to keep their mid laner safe.
It forces him his beads. Perfect silence by Jelly, but Zachsy's off the mark with a stun. Doesn't matter. Myflin cleans it up. Great plays there as a unit from Obey Alliance. And that's what you expect from these guys, to work well as 5, and they do it around that Gold Fury pit. Delta Marine goes aggressive with the blink in, secures the kill onto Keji with the water hands, and now it's Obey looking for the Gold Fury, down to about 50%. But Medieval's here. He's the only one around.
Whenever you play someone like Hopwa who has virtually no getaway, as we do see the Cataclysm come down, trying to find anything to return that Gold Fury confirmed by Obey, and Chulainn looking for the snipe, but not able to find it.
Good idea.
Whenever you're playing someone like Hopwa, the best thing you could see is something like that, where your team has so much peel that they can keep you alive, even though you're just 1 hit from death.
In reality, though, towards the back end, Relating drops that kill where Delta Marine doesn't have Aegis. You know he doesn't. He's got Blink and Beads. And he goes into the Gold Fury pit. He's trying to juke around the backside of that Gold Fury. All Relating has to do is take 1 more step in for overhand smash. It's a giant cone that covers the entire pit. I know he's worried about getting killed by going in 1 more step, but if you're going in that far, you're in.
Yeah.
You got to commit and get that kill, because now Delta Marine has been able to back to base. He gets that Gold Fury farm. He comes back and starts to farm very quickly. He's level 14. That would have been a big kill for Relating to put him a little bit closer to Myflin. Just wasn't able to really find it.
Now we're seeing pretty much the turnaround of the Blink Fear No Evil coming down. Delta Marine going to get bursted around, and that's the kind of play they wanted to get the kill on the Habwa. His beads are down, they know it. He went Blink for his second relic, which is going to keep him on a more aggressive playstyle going through all of this, so it's going to be easier to pick on him as a Hunbatz.
Really good play there by SoaR. That's textbook. They know the hyper carries, beads are down. It's time to just dump everything into him, and you really only invest one ultimate in relatings. A couple blinks there as well, but those aren't too big of a deal. Smart plays by SoaR Gaming.
Obey looking for their gains, but their gains are going to be kind of losses. SoaR actually going to be pushing down, trying to get this mid tier 1, looking for whatever damage they can. Jelly going to be coming in with Myflin, looking for the damage, and Chalabar is going to be the main target. Aegis going to be used just to keep him alive, but Myflin is not going to be deterred. TheMedievalDoc's the one who's caught up. JacobTask making the rotation in. It's still taking a lot of damage. The tier 1 tower is going to be enough to force Obey back. They're still happy because they come out of it with a kill.
Myflin again looking for the root. He finds it onto Keji, and now Am Dwurst is going in underneath that tower. Gets a purification beads out from the AMC. He'll tank it up with use of the Thorns just to dissuade SoaR from hitting him any longer, but Zachsy doesn't have any penetration yet, but plenty of power with that Bancroft's Talon. Obey takes down the tier 1 for 500 gold.
Now being able to turn around, look for some aggression. I mean, Oracle Harpies are always nice, just to be able to get some vision. Even though the Gold Fury is down for another 2.5 minutes, no one going to be able to kind of turn that into an objective here soon. Myflin looking for the steal and looking for the fight, but ultimately going to find a stinger and forced to fall back. Zachsy's rotating in. Obey kind of coming over in case they wanted to fight, and maybe they were waiting for the engagement from SoaR. They see ultimately nothing's going to be coming through, but Relating, he has that Fear No Evil, and he's just waiting for Zachsy to do exactly what he just did, which is go forward. He's going to find him, but not find all the damage he needs.
Good choice by Relating not to continue that chase. Zachsy still has Aegis. He's got 100 stacks on that Warlock Sash. They just don't have enough damage to bring him down right now, especially with Keji not having his ult or any mana. That chase isn't going to be very fruitful. Get the Purification Beads. Make sure that Zachsy is now in danger of dying to the combo that we've seen in mid, where it's the Blink Cataclysm, the Blink Fear No Evil. You can just double blink on him and erase him before that Aegis or Rewind comes out.
Now we see Obey taking their own buffs, doing their own thing. The big thing, I think, coming out for them is going to be Myflin going forward into the rest of this match. He's 1-1-2 right now, which isn't necessarily the best start, but he's picked up that Thorns. He's been doing the same thing we've seen Chulainn do, but as he gets later into the game with the rest of his build coming online, he gets to do those Chulainn things that we've gotten to see all day.
I think I would have preferred to see Blink for Chulainn in the jungle. It feels like that double Blink knockup potential between Chulainn and Habwa is a little bit more potent than the double Thorns between Sun Wukong and Chulainn. But the Mass Immune, the Gladiator Shield, love this build so far, and can't argue with how much player damage he's done. Top of the game by 700 damage over Keji, and it's Myflin and then 4 members of SoaR before we see the next blue number for Obey. So he's been doing the majority of the damage so far for Obey.
That's kind of the worst spot I would say to be in, specifically as Delta Marine. Zachsy, you don't expect a lot of damage for him to come out until maybe another 5 minutes from now. Delta Marine, though, has been there. He's been fighting. He just hasn't been hitting a lot of people. He's been farming a lot. And normally when you are one of the most damaging gods in the game, you expect to fight a little bit more.
A little bit, but that damage doesn't fall off for Habwa. It continues to be high and gets even higher now that he's got some penetration, some more base damage on that water spout. Delta Marine has the potential to turn any fight at any time.
Now we're going to be seeing them go in. Fear No Evil comes down, and it's going to be Zachsy as the main target. The Aegis is going to keep him alive for long enough to get that rewind off, and now Relating, MedievalDoc, and Keji are on the run. The Tier 2 tower is still enough to deter Obey, because at this point they don't want to dive something that's not only damage immune, because the Tier 1's still up, but it'll hurt them a lot.
I think Delta Marine was just off the mark there with his ultimate. That would have been enough to bring down Relating, but in this situation, kills are just about as good as forcing them back to base. Myflin trying to keep JacobTask busy while the rest of his team's on the Gold Fury. Meanwhile, Dwurst is still diving that Tier 2 tower. He gets beads out from Keji. Has to use an ultimate in response, but as long as he can stay safe, that's worth it.
I'll always love going into the third person of the Wukong up on the Somersault Cloud because you can see he's trying to figure out if he wants to keep fighting or not. He always turns around and looks at it, but he's getting chased down now by Challeber, who missed the ultimate overall final judgment. Not going to be judging anyone right now. And the sprint going to be coming through from JacobTask just to try and find that aggression. He's going to be looking for the stun. He finds two, and the overhand smash going to be good onto Zachsy. They're looking for the kill. They're looking for the damage, but the Geb shield is going to be a little bit to deter it. But turning things around, Delta Marine dealing the damage you want from the Hobble.
He got body blocked off the blink. He blinked into a minion wave and couldn't step up the little amount that he needed to find the securing water hands onto Relating. Zachsy does end up getting that kill onto JacobTask. As Obey tries to keep chasing this down the left-hand side. Keji's on the right doing that Portal Demon.
Keji doing his best Keegs mate impression going for it, and we see the Fear No Evil just to get a turnaround and kill onto Myflin. They're going to end up losing a tower overall. They get the Portal Demon. And
love this.
Now the Fire Giant's actually being started, and the rest of Obey doesn't seem to know.
I love this call from SoaR. Really, really smart. They got Portal Demon. Everyone from Obey's on the left-hand side. They've committed to staying on that left. This Fire Giant's going to go down, and no one from Obey is going to be even close to coming in to steal it. Really heads-up shot calling by SoaR.
That has been, I think, the third time now, if you count that last Portal Demon as well, and the first one they did, where they just recognize Obey doesn't have the vision or the wherewithal at this point to be able to make a response to their plays. And Keji doing what we've seen Keegsmate do in other games, what we've seen SoaR do in other games, where it's just like, you're the Muzen Cobb, you've got your full Devourer's Gauntlet, go lifesteal this objective and just take it for us.
And they get it on 4 members too. Only JacobTask without that Fire Giant. Not the biggest deal to not have your solo laner with it. So really good spot for SoaR Gaming now. They're down in gold about 3,000, which isn't great. It's not awful though. And with Fire Giant usually worth around 4,000 to 5,000 gold in terms of how much damage and regen and siege potential it gives you. So that's a good look for SoaR. Not a good look to lose your Blink Cataclysm like that in mid lane for MedievalDoc, but he was just trying to chase out Shell from Myflin. That's all. It was just a Shell bait.
Fire Giant, the great equalizer here, and you can see Obey recognizing that just because they are playing a lot more carefully now, but MedievalDoc going to get caught between two. The shots over the wall from Challeber, though, just to get some damage down. Fear No Evil going to be coming out. It's only going to connect with Dwurst, and again, if it's going to be like, oh, well, Fire Giant's not on JacobTask, Fear No Evil onto only Dwurst isn't really that bad. That's
best case scenario, basically, for Obey. Myflin doing what he wanted to do this whole game, basically, and just jump over that Fear No Evil on response to the Blink. And that forces SoaR back. Not having the 2 ultimates that have made the most impact so far in this game, between the Hunbat's ultimate and the Geb ultimate, means that they don't want to siege until those are up.
Now they have about 2 minutes left on their Fire Giant, 2 minutes left until the Gold Fury is back as well. And this is going to be the time, if you're going to get it in a play like this, you usually want to use it. It's not going to be the end of the world if you don't end up getting any towers with it, but you usually want to get some utility out of it, because otherwise the only reason you got it was to make sure Obey didn't get it, and they didn't even look like they wanted it yet.
No, SoaR needs to get this mid T1 at the very least. It's already down to less than half HP, and with 4 members of Fire Giant, losing those 2 ultimates is big, but there's plenty of CDR for these 2 players. They're already almost back up. Look for SoaR to really try and push down this T1 in mid still.
Positioning aggressively. Challeber going to be able to get some damage down. Dwurst is the one I'm watching over there in the jungle as the one who could potentially start things off for Obey as he kind of loops around. He has a lot of damage. Wukong, being the nuisance he is always going to be the cause of disruption, but it seems like SoaR is a little timid to try and fight into this, and Obey know better than to fight into that.
Myflin had to go to the right-hand side to try and handle JacobTask, who was trying to get a tier 2 all by his lonesome, as now that Jacob's on the way back, SoaR's going to engage.
Now Keji going to be the main target for Dwurst, who's going into the backline to try and get to MedievalDoc is low, though, and with the Fear No Evil going to go against Delta Marine, but it's not going to be enough to find the kill. But the final judgment snipe down the lane is going to be enough to get Delta Marine, and that is going to be a lot of damage off the board. Now Dwurst is the one forced into his ult just to stay alive.
Looked like everything was coming up Obey in that team fight. I mean, Myflin interrupts the overhand smash on a Delta Marine off the Fear No Evil, so he can stay safe for the moment. Dwurst does a great job of zoning away Challeber and Keji at the same time. And then Challeber makes one big play, and all of a sudden, it's all SoaR.
Now Zachsy looking to try and turn this one around for his team. The rewind taking him a little bit too far away, though, and he's not going to be able to capitalize on some of these health bars without putting himself in a bad position. Not going to be able to find the damage that he wants. And because of that, he's going to have to fall back. And there's the tier 1 tower they needed to really make it overall worthwhile. And now they're going to be losing their Fire Giant in about 15 seconds, so they're happy they got it then.
But they're trying to get this Gold Fury on top of that, and this would be the real big difference maker for SoaR. Zachsy, the only one privy to the information that this is going on, but it's just a lone Chronos. That goes down in SoaR's favor, and that Fire Giant comes up big for them, equalizing this game.
Cutting it close there. Zachsy almost able to get it, but just a little too late and just slightly too early on the other side going into this one. SoaR now have shown they have the potential to make a lot of these shot calls that normally people deem too risky, and they're not afraid to do it, which I think is the big thing. They can read the map well, and I think this is going to come in as some of the veteran players you were mentioning earlier making just and being able to read the map, but read Obey
really, really well. And these are guys who've played against Obey a lot. Chulainn in particular, TheMedievalDoc as well, have played against these guys in a number of different competitive situations. So having this opportunity and really making the most out of it, because as we mentioned, this is a big set for SoaR to try and get some momentum. But the same could be said for SoaR. They need something good to start going their way in order to gain some momentum towards the end of the season.
And what was and has been an entire gold lead for Obey is still going to be a gold lead for Obey, but they're just chunking it down slowly but surely. What Obey was building with 2 Gold Furies, with all the farm they were getting, we see SoaR now finally tearing it down and trying to position themselves to do it again, going for the Portal Demon and the Fire Giant, but this time Obey is a little bit wiser on where the position of the other team is.
Delta Marine's on the left side of the map. He went to left side back Harpy, so he's pretty far away from this fight. SoaR Gaming don't have that information, but they need to be careful about engaging right now.
We're going to see Relating go in. He's looking for the damage. Fear No Evil is available, and he's going to use it just to get Dwurst, trying to push him down. And we did see Final Judgment get thrown out very early on, which means it won't be the big game maker that you saw from the last team fight. Delta Marine forced to use his ult just on MedievalDoc, and a lot of damage being thrown into the tanks here, but none of them looking to fall until now. Knockup's going to be good. Zachsy with the last hit, going to be able to find the kill. Keji stunned out. A lot of damage potential, but no one's throwing it in. The Muzen Cobb is slowly running away, and Dwurst is chasing him down.
Dwurst doing such a great job on the back line. Somehow can't secure any kills, but Zachsy will. That's number 3 for him. He knocks down Keji. Myflin needs one more shot on JacobTask. That vent anger, just not enough to do it.
We do see Delta Marine go for the blink, though, and he will find the kill off of that. Dwurst chasing down and getting the kill on Relating, killing everyone except for Chulainn there. They're able to pick up the 4 kills, and now trying to turn that one into the Fire Giant. And Zachsy has the damage to do it. They just have to tank this properly because their health bars are kind of low, but as long as they continue doing what they're doing, they don't need to be worried.
That was the first fight for Zachsy. He really got to make a big impact, and a really big one is what he made. He was the one doing the majority of that damage because Delta Marine was forced out of that fight very early on, and that fight goes wrong for SoaR, mostly due to a lack of patience. They waste the Final Judgment from Chulainn, who was hunting for 2 tanky targets between Dwurst and Jelly. Then the Fear No Evil comes out, only hitting Dwurst. No follow-up after that. Those 2 ultimates have made such a big difference in this game, and to have both be shot at the targets that they won't set up kills for is the reason that SoaR end up losing that engagement.
At the end of that Fire Giant, the one thing going through my head was all Obey has to do is one small misplay in this pit, and everyone ends up falling. And that entire fight that just went their way goes to nothing. But lucky for them, they know the pattern, they know what to do, they know the plays, and they come out on top now with 5 members with the Fire Giant, waiting patiently to be able to use it. And I feel like that's going to be hitting very hard on the backs of the 2 mages that they have for Obey, because they're pretty much full build. They've got the Rod of Tahuti's, which is the big one.
That's the big thing. Both Delta Marine and Zachsy are able to finish Rod of Tahuti in that last back. Now, Delta Marine doesn't have beads for another 35 seconds or so, so look for Obey to stay safe for those 30 seconds. They don't want to engage or be engaged on during that time period. Once Delta Marine's relics are up, then Obey can afford to play a little bit more aggressive.
And they're already getting the most out of this Fire Giant. Once they take this tier 2, it'll essentially be more than what SoaR was able to get out of theirs, and they don't look like they want to stop just yet. They're going for all of the towers here to make it so that they not only get the gold, but they get the map presence and the control. Myflin left all alone, trying to push it down, his warrior self. Now the rest of the team decides to join up. He's getting a little bit, I guess, miscommunication. They decided the buffs were a little bit more important than helping him out.
I mean, this stage of the game, red buff is pretty important, so don't blame Obey for going for that. I mean, now Delta Marine has 1-shot potential, if he can blink into the back line, knock up Chulainn while charging that final judgment, something along those lines. I love this idea from Obey to go right to left, knocking down these tier 2, because that puts them in the perfect spot to push left side Phoenix. Problem is, so their minion wave is really far away on the left-hand side. No one bothered to push that up during the push back up. So now they have to siege the mid lane instead, because they don't want to have to worry about trying to backdoor this left side Phoenix. Zachsy's going to be able to shred these Phoenixes very quickly once those backdoor protections are removed by the minions.
And that's going to be the big play for them. Myflin actually looking to go in maybe first. Will be the one that leads the way for the team. Dwurst as well coming in. The question is, do they have the damage or do they have the minions really to be able to do this? Because the wave can get cleared fast and they just don't want to full commit under the Phoenix with all 5 members of SoaR there. It looks like the team's kind of recognizing they don't have as much clout as they would like. They're going to go ahead and fall back.
Yeah, Gold Fury being up, the main deterrent there, I suppose, for Obey, but they've got basically every power item they need online. Zachsy's just waiting on the last tier of what's probably going to be a Hastened Ring or a Shaman's Ring for himself. Delta Marine still has 2 item slots yet to be filled by true items. He's got 2 starter items there between the Sands of Time and the Bumba's Mask. But I really think that Obey could have gone for a Phoenix Siege in that situation. All relics up, all ultimates up is tough. Is in the late game of Smite is some of the hardest engagements to call. You have to be very confident and you have to work together as a team very well. But this is an opportunity for them to back and get those key items, I suppose. Delta Marine, it looks like right before we switch on to Jelly's view, picked up a Stone of Fall as his 5th item, which I love. This is the perfect item in this situation. He's got his Wrath to Hootie. He's not worried about damage anymore. Go for something that's going to prevent you from instantly losing a team fight. Best way to instantly lose a team fight against Thoth is to get one shot by Final Judgment. Stone of Fall takes that possibility off the table.
And that's going to be the big one. Chulainn, the use he has had so far has been a lot of shots over the wall and being able to find the Final Judgment. And the times that SoaR has lost, a lot of them have been missing or not having as much damage come down from that ultimate, maybe throwing it onto the tanks. I've seen it hit Dwurst or Jelly a few times where it's just like, okay, that's great, cool, you hit them, but it didn't change anything.
Exactly, and it won't be that big game changer necessarily against Delta Marine now with that Stone of Fall. Will still do 30% of his health, which is a respectable chunk, without a doubt. And so if Delta Marine gets poked out, still able to knock him down very quickly with it, but not that 80-0 sort of potential that we saw earlier on in the mid lane.
And that's going to be the big opener, is if Chulainn hits that, he does still have the potential to clean it up, but he has to clean it up. He can't just rely on the one-shot kill. And Delta Marine's going to be happy about that one because he does get some survivability, which is the best thing you can have as a mage that doesn't have a lot of getaway. The most he has is the water carpet, and running fast doesn't always get you safe.
And honestly, Stone of Fall wouldn't be a bad pickup for Chulainn here in response. Both these mages have one-shot potential. Hell, even Zachsy might be able to pop that Stone of Fall with a Time Rift at this stage. He's full build now. After Fire Giant buff with red as well, it's potential to do a lot of magical damage, and that wouldn't be a bad pickup for Chulainn.
Fire Giant going to get taken down. SoaR has no say in the matter. They have no point on this map that they've been able to push forward into. They're just focused on trying to keep these Phoenixes alive, which is a big play for them because when you start to lose those, we've seen it, you can come back, but it's very difficult. You have to deal with the fire minions, you start losing farm across the map, you lose control of things, you lose things like the Fire Giant and the Gold Fury early on, and then you just can't build the items you need or wander outside of your Phoenix line. So at least keeping them alive for now and keeping the waves pushed up, they have a way to fight back.
And it also, you look at what Obey did during their last siege, they didn't seem particularly keen on pushing down and fighting underneath SoaR's Phoenix. The only thing that's changed is that Delta Marine's gotten an extra item. Zachsy's finished off an item as well. And those are big deals, but Obey clearly had some trepidation about walking into SoaR's turf like this, so no reason for SoaR to go and fight Obey where Obey feels more comfortable.
And that's kind of the big thing, is when you at least can get your opponent to be uncomfortable, you can take advantage of what they might be expecting. So a lot of what comes down into Smite is a mentality-based thing. You can, in fact, win from behind just because you tilt your opponent off the face of the earth. You can lose all 3 Phoenixes and still win the game by making them upset, but you have to be able to do something with it. And now Relating going in with the Fear No Evil, trying to find anything, but the beads are going to come out, and now he's the one taking all of the poke. But Zachsy, I love the focus. He wants that Phoenix.
Because Myflin's got Relating on the backside. Stone of Fall got popped there. Delta Marine may have fallen without that itemization, but a wise choice ends up saving his life. Chulainn was on the mark, just doesn't get the reward.
Now the right bird going to be the next target. MedievalDoc doing his best to try and find anything, but he's only a Geb, so there's not as much as he can do, not enough damage to find the kill that his team needs. Now he's going to get stunned down, and Zachsy just whacking him into the ground. And the third bird's going to be the main target here, and that's going to be the big pickup. If Obey can find it, they're going to have the ult come through. The damage is good. JacobTask taken down by Myflin, and they're going to continue looking on this siege.
Late game Chronos hurts. Consider this your only warning. He does a lot, even to the tanks. MedievalDoc, JacobTask, doesn't matter. This is a full build Chronos. He's not worried about nothing.
That's our beginner's tip of the day.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
They hurt really badly. 2 late game gods, Chronos though, specifically, he hurts. And he's hurting that Titan very well. And Obey are going to be able to take this one out. That was, I think, the strongest performance they've really had this split so far. But a lot of it has to be said against the opponents that they've been going against. Because when you're going up against the people who are tied for #1 right now, you're not going to look that great.
That's true. And they had some tough matchups thus far, and this was the chance to get the ball rolling. And they have done so through the first game of this set. But SoaR also looks very, very good.
Yes.
I mean, that Fire Giant call was really, really intelligent from them. It put them back into this game. And then Obey just had a couple team fights that didn't go overwhelmingly in their favor, just a couple abilities that were off. Relating had some ultimates that were phenomenal. He was on point with the communication in the mid lane, consistently bullying out Delta Marine. His early game in the jungle seems very, very strong to me. The late game team fight seems to be an area that he needs to work on, though, because those Hunbat's ultimates did become less and less effective as the game wore on.
And while he had a lot of potential and a lot of setup for his team, we got to see what was happening earlier on was a lot of combos going in, the Cataclysm and the Fear No Evil. And as the game went on, they started getting scattered apart. Now you have one happening and burning some beads, but then everyone resets, and now you can't go in and rely on the damage that you have coming up on that, or the CC.
And because of that, my guess is that either Shaliber or Medieval is saying, hey, we're going to do this, you're going to blink, you're going to ult, I'm going to kill, and we're going to be fine. You can do that in the early game because there's not a lot of chaos going on. You can kind of manipulate the map the way you want. In the late game, whoever it is, whether it's Medieval or Shaliber, can't hold his hand and tell him what to do on the back line because they're worried about what's in front of them. So you just got to do a better job of understanding what your role is in the later stages and not need to be told what combo you need to pull off.
But the